Hi there, everyone. How you doing? Jeff C. here again on Monday, October the 6th. When we talk about the globalists, right? When we talk about these power organizations, these wealthy families like the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, etc., the global international groups like the Bilderbergs, the Rand Corporation, Council on Foreign Relations, you name it, all these different outlets, they are always trying to predict the future. In fact, it's one of the things that they really excel in, is predicting things that are going to happen. I wonder why. Right? So I don't think any of you will find it a surprise that the Rockefeller Foundation indeed predicted back in 2010 a global pandemic that was going to outbreak in the world between the years 2013 and 2015. And what am I referring to? I'm referring to this document here. This is the scenarios for the future of technology and international development. This is a document that was created by the Rockefeller Foundation with the Global Business Network, a member of the Monitor Group, a globalist, right? And here's a particular document from the whole thing where they look at scenario narratives, lockstep, headlines in lockstep, quarantine restrictions, in-person contact, cellular networks overloaded in 2013. 2015, intercontinental trade hit by strict pathogen controls. They actually predict in this document, I've read through many pages here, that there would be a global pathogen, there would be a pandemic that would outbreak in around 2012 and that would last for several years and kill millions of people. So I want to read to you this chapter here, or at least part of it. Lockstep, scenario narratives, lockstep, a world of tighter down government control, a more authoritarian leadership with limited innovation and growing citizen pushback. This is what they predict to happen in the near future. In fact, they predict this back in 2010, and of course it's playing out to a T right now. So in 2010, the pandemic that hit the world had been anticipating, in 2012, the pandemic that the world had been anticipating for years finally hit. Unlike 2009's H1N1, the new influenza strain originating from wild geese was extremely virulent and deadly. Even the most pandemic-prepared nations were quickly overwhelmed when the virus streaked around the globe, infecting nearly 20% of the population and killing 8 million in just 7 months, the majority of them healthy young adults. The pandemic also had a deadly effect on economies. International mobility of people and goods screeched to a halt, debilitating industries like tourism and breaking the global supply chains. Even locally, normally bustling shops and office buildings sat empty for months, devoid of both employees and customers. The pandemic blanketed the planet, though disproportionate numbers died in Africa, go figure, Southeast Asia and Central America, where the virus spread like wildfire in the absence of official containment protocols. Very important. But even in the developed countries, containment was a challenge. The United States' initial policy strongly discouraging citizens from flying proved deadly in its leniency, accelerating the spread of the virus not just within the United States but across borders. And don't we see that happening right now with how the United States has supposedly dealt with this Ebola hoax, right? However, a few countries did fare better. China! They love China. I mean, China is the new United States. They love China. It's just wonderful having all these people that you're just completely under control and fear. China in particular, the Chinese government quick imposition and enforcement of mandatory quarantine for all citizens, as well as its instant near hermetic sealing off of all borders, saved millions of lives, stopping the spread of the virus far earlier than in other countries and enabling a swift post-pandemic recovery. How crazy is that? All right, they're just basically saying how awesome China is, and if only the United States was so swift and authoritarian and, completely in control as the lunatics running China. And then let's read a little bit more. China's government was not the only one that took extreme measures to protect its citizens from risk and exposure. During the pandemic, national leaders around the world flexed their authority and imposed airtight rules and restrictions from mandatory wearing of face masks to body temperature checks at entries to communal spaces like train stations and supermarkets. Even after the pandemic faded, this more authoritarian control and oversight of citizens and their activities stuck and even intensified in order to protect themselves from the spread of increasingly global problems, from pandemics and transnational terrorism to environmental crisis and rising poverty. Leaders around the world took a firmer grip and power. Yikes, eh? It's pretty scary stuff. And they talk about here how citizens react to it. At first, the notion of more controlled world gained wide acceptance and approval. Citizens willingly gave up some of their sovereignty, have you heard this before, and their privacy to more paternalistic states in exchange for greater safety and stability. Those who give up their safety, right, or give up their freedoms for safety deserve neither. Citizens were more tolerant and even eager for the top-down direction and oversight, and the national leaders had much more latitude to impose in ways that they saw fit, right? And developed countries, this heightened oversight took many forms, like biometric ID for all citizens, RFID chips, folks, you name it. For example, and tighter regulation of key industries whose stability was deemed vital to national interests in many developed countries, enforced cooperation with a suite of new regulations and agreements slowly but steadily restored order and, importantly, economic growth. Right? And then they talk about the developing world, top-down authority taking all different forms, some using it for complete power and control and all this. But you get the gist of what this whole thing is talking about here. And really, we're seeing it played out right before our eyes. This is how they do it. They plan these things. And then, of course, they tell the people, because not everybody that works for them is in on it, right? Obviously. But they foreshadow what's going to happen so that people that are already in these organizations that have read these types of documents will say, well, yeah, that makes sense. That's exactly how they said it would play out. They're telling you right now that they're going to use a pandemic to seize control, take more control. And once they take the control, they'll never give it back. As I say all the time, once you give up your freedoms, you have to fight to the death to get them back. Governments don't give freedoms. You have to win your freedoms. That's how every revolution has ever happened, right? It's a breaking point. So anybody who's willing to give up their freedoms and get microchipped and vaccinated over this bullshit that's coming off the corporate media, well, don't say I didn't warn you. Don't say I didn't see it coming and didn't try to get the word out to you, because this is exactly what they're doing. I will leave the links for this below. I hope you will share this video with everyone you know, and feel free to upload it to your YouTube channel as well. Thank you very much for listening. Have a wonderful day.